I'm the hunter now. I've just been hunting, like in every sense of the word, and I'll make sure, like when it's time to fight, I'll hunt him down. Like I said, my target's straight on him, nothing else.
Trust me, he knows I put him on skates last time, and this time when I put you on skates, I'm gonna leave you frozen like Elsa.
Thank you.
You see me try some shit that I've seen in cartoons or video games, and I'll pull it out in the octagon because I can do it. Yeah, I blur the lines between reality and fantasy. I am that line, the last stylebender.
Off the back of my video panning the UFC heavyweight division, I thought it would be a nice switch up to talk about one of the divisions that's actually had a bit of a resurgence in recent times. Middleweight is on fucking fire right now. We have an exciting champ at the helm, a bunch of hungry contenders baring their teeth at him, and said champ is actually down to fight every single one of them to prove that he's the top dog. Behind them, we have a pretty solid top 15 with a mix of chiseled veterans and a wave of new blood butting heads. And behind those guys, we have some interesting players coming up on the rankings. It's pretty damn sweet right now. I wouldn't say it's the best weight class at the moment. That distinction would probably go to bantamweight or welterweight for me, but it's in a pretty good spot. It's interesting how fluid these divisions could be in their quality or popularity. Whether it be weaker contenders, an unexciting championship reign, or just a shallow pool to pick from, sometimes divisions can kind of stall out and get stale over time. Again, go watch my heavyweight video if you want an example of a boring-ass division with no direction. Sometimes, no matter what the UFC does to try and alleviate this, it can't be helped. 155 is packed with killers, but it's received complaints from the fandom over the past few years due to the logjam at the top. For a while, it kind of just felt like the Poirier, Oliveira, Gaethje, and Chandler show. Yes, all those dudes are killers and incredibly fun to watch. We've already seen them fight each other multiple times. It's just not fresh anymore. But this isn't the UFC's fault, as they made all these guys fight up-and-coming contenders in BSD, Rafael Fiziev, and Arman Tsarukyan. Almost all three of them were kicked back down the rankings by the old guard, save for the latter getting past Oliveira, but just barely. These top guys are literally too good, which in this case is a bit of a blessing and a curse. And sometimes you can end up in a very strange situation where not only is the champ dominant, but he starts to run out of fresh contenders. That is an incredibly awkward situation for any weight class, and it's happened to several of them over the years, 185 being one of them. Anderson Silva's reign is legendary. He may not have had this stiff a competition as we see nowadays, but regardless, the way he would just swat title challengers away like mosquitoes was insanity. He went on a 16-fight win streak after joining the promotion in 2006 and was almost too good. He was on another plane entirely when it came to the striking, and there were a good few performances that ended up kind of being stinky. He would get in these weird moods where he'd kind of just fuck around and goof off in there, and boy did it piss Dana White off.
I gave
What did you
I
say?
left in the fourth round, and I gave the belt to Ed, and I said, you put it on him. I'm not doing it.
This eventually bit him in the ass when he took on the All-American Chris Weidman in 2013. He went for a fucking around type of fight and paid a heavy price for it. Despite how much people loved the guy, his stretch had seriously begun to stagnate the division. It was one thing when he was delivering stunning finishes that looked like something out of a movie, but when he wasn't doing that all the time, it's kind of slow, it's kind of rough. This switch up was desperately needed at the time. Silva would never claim gold again, and his career in general kind of went rolling downhill after this, but there wouldn't be a dominant force at 185 for a long time. Weidman did defend his strap 3 times against Silva again, Lyoto Machida, and Vitor Belfort, which ain't too shabby, but would then lose it to the at the time phenom in Luke Rockhold. The way Weidman got the belt by catching the spider as he was fucking around and then winning the rematch by, I guess, using telekinesis to shatter Silva's leg made it kind of feel a bit fluky to some fans. Not to me, to clarify. All respect to Weidman. I'd only say that to highlight how much of a problem Rockhold seemed to be. Like, it really felt like he was going to be the next big thing at 185 and go on a crazy tear.
Some people strive to achieve things, and some people strive to hate. You know, if you think something, the likelihood of it happening is very slim. If you believe in something, if you know something is going to happen, if you're confident in that situation, you will achieve things in life. That's how you overcome things. That's how you put yourself out there. You believe it, and you achieve it. And that's what I do. I know what I'm going to do. I know that I'm better than this.
Sounds like the worst self-help book you've ever read. Conceive, believe, achieve. Shut the fuck up. Listen.
Yeah.
You're talking like you're like this dominant champion. You just won the belt. This is your first defense. It's not like you're Anderson Silva, who I just beat, by the way. Okay, this is your first defense. You're going to lose the belt.
And
just
watch
get
the
used
difference.
To it.
Watch the difference, what happens.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Cyclops is a tricky beast. Michael Bisping was called up on short notice to fight Rockhold in a rematch for the strap. Literally 0 people picked him to win this, and honestly, was that unreasonable? Bisping was never quite able to get right to the top, always failing at the biggest stages, and Rockhold already beat him, and this was 2 weeks notice. I mean, come on. Well, shit. In one of the more shocking upsets in UFC history, the British legend actually did it. He then had the opportunity of a lifetime to fight one of the goats of the sport in GS motherfucking P himself. They sold the shit out of this fight. GSP is just a star without even having to try. People love the guy. And Bisping plays a really damn good bad guy, actually getting the former welterweight king to crack a bit and get flustered. You know, if GSP is losing his cool, Bisping must be annoying as fuck.
Keep your hands to yourself. Yeah, fuck off, man. Keep your fucking hands to yourself. Hey, keep your hands to yourself. Yeah, I will knock you out. Let's save this for the Hey, I will knock you out real quick. Keep your hands to yourself.
Keep your hand on you. Don't touch me, man. Don't touch me. I'm not afraid of you.
Side note, it's kind of weird looking back on this stuff because I'm used to friendly commentator Bisping nowadays. He's so goofy. It's easy to forget he used to be like this. Anyways, Bisping was unable to stave off the legend as GSP subbed him late into the fight. Pretty good scrap, but Bisping came up short. GSP was the new middleweight champion of the world. For 15 seconds, he would relinquish the belt for a second time and go into retirement, turning the UFC president bright purple.
There's a reason I put that stuff in the contract for him to sign. There's a reason. And you know, am I shocked? You know, I don't think anybody's shocked.
He really may as well have just smacked Dana White's sandwich out of his hand as he left the PI. In his stead, Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero put on an absolute nuclear-level badass fight for the interim belt, with Whittaker coming out on top. He would then later be upgraded to full champ status. I think it's safe to say, and I think most would agree, that this was the best time in the history of 185. Gotta love Anderson Silva, but it was just so competitive around this time. Israel Adesanya made his come up towards the tail end of this and lit the MMA world on fire. Everyone talks about contender Izzy for a reason. When he was blazing a path towards the title, he was doing it in pretty exciting fashion. His interim title bout against Kelvin Gastelum just got inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, and rightfully so, as it was easily one of the best fights ever. He continued this streak by making light work of Robert Whittaker, stealing the undisputed status for himself. Oh boy, we ain't seen nothing yet. Adesanya's about to rip through this division.
I remember everything like an elephant. And like I said, I was in the nosebleeds, and now I made his nose bleed.
All right. Yeah, this would start to be a bit of a rough patch 185. Outside of him steamrolling Paulo Costa at the end of 2020, every Adesanya title defense was kind of garbanzo. I just made a video on Sean Strickland doing the same thing, but Izzy had a habit of hyping up his fights a lot, as you know, as you should, but then would go in and do about as little as possible to just about keep the belt. The defenses against Marvin Vettori, Robert Whittaker the second time, and Jared Cannonier all should have been entertaining. We've seen all three of those guys put on great fights. Maybe Izzy felt a bit burned after trying to go up to 205 against Jan Blachowicz and coming up short, because he made these matches horrifically boring. It was fine when it happened the one time with Romero. I get it. Romero is terrifying. One bad, boring defense doesn't cement you as being a boring champ, but this stretch was seriously drab. I don't want to take away from the skill set of Adesanya at all, and one thing I'll miss about his era, and honestly this era of the UFC in general, is the dude fought every other month practically. That's nutty. But by the time we got to that Cannonier fight, everyone was kind of expecting it to be disappointing, and yeah. At this point, Izzy had pretty much cleared out the top 10, boring performances aside, except for one guy. Poatan, Alex Pereira. This rivalry was much needed around this time. Pereira temporarily halted the loudmouth Sean Strickland on the Izzy Cannonier undercard and was set up as the next hurdle for the champ. A lot of people were hoping Pereira would get the win, as Izzy wasn't exactly the most popular around this time, and it seemed likely given that he already had 2 wins over him in kickboxing. But regardless of who you thought would win or who you wanted to win, I think most people were excited at the idea of a fun Izzy fight. An Izzy fight that couldn't be boring. There's no earthly way. And thankfully, that was true. This first fight was a chess match between the two. Israel seemed to be edging on the scorecards for most of the fight, able to be just ahead of Poatan, even implementing some grappling for once. But he would learn yet again that no matter how good you are, Alex has that eraser. The dude just hits obscenely hard. We had a new sheriff in town. This already seemed like the dawn of a new horizon for the division. But we couldn't be too hasty to move on. Whether you like the guy or not, he was a long-reigning champ with multiple defenses, so an immediate rematch was customary. It seemed like it was going to happen all over again, with Pereira marching down Stylebender more aggressively. Former champ was playing possum. Holy shit. I won't lie, this made you believe in the idea of champ Izzy versus contender Izzy. This was easily his most impressive performance since the Robert Whittaker win back in the day. But even if it was explosive, I think there were some people that maybe felt a bit bummed that we're just going back to the status quo again. Would he continue being exciting, or would we get a few more, you know, shit from an ass defenses? Well, no, not again, unfortunately for him. Sean Strickland shocked the MMA world by taking the belt off him. Then DDP comes barreling through the division and gets his shot, takes the belt for himself, then defends it against Izzy in a barn burner. burner. Then takes on Strickland in a rematch and dog walks him. As you can see, this is a much more similar situation to the division in the mid to late 2010s. Tides have been turning little by little over time, and now here we are. Dricus is champ, and we have a batch of vicious contenders eyeing their shot. There's nothing wrong with a long-reigning champ, to clarify. If Izzy did nothing but set fireworks in the octagon, people would love him. Given how stagnant things have become by the end of him being on top, I think we can all agree that we welcome the change. I'm honestly all here for the potential DDP era, or whatever happens instead. While the whole Adesanya-Pereira rivalry was happening at the forefront, Duplessis was in the background, rolling over contenders like Donkey Kong on an insane win streak. And most people didn't really respect him that much because his style was so goddamn silly to look at. Looking back, we were saying some pretty insane things about the guy. He has bad cardio, he isn't that skilled on the feet, he swings like an orangutan, blah blah blah. He's gone 25 minutes and kept up the pace twice now, has finishes over Whittaker and Adesanya, and just came off a dominant win against a guy that made it look really competitive a year ago. We need to put some respect on DDP's name. He makes his jankiness work to his advantage. Anyways, beside the champ, we have a well-rounded Nasruddin Imavov, who just smashed Adesanya's face, Blistering Tornado, WrestleFuck Monster, and Hamzat Chimaev, who just crushed Whittaker's face, and Fighting Nerds Beast and Caio Borralho, who just battered Cannonier's face. Cannonier himself just knocked out Gregory Rodriguez in an insane comeback win. Behind him, we have Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze fighting for the second time soon. I will admit, I'm not sure there were many people clamoring for that fight necessarily, but it'll be interesting to see who wants it more. Brendan Allen is taking on the dark horse of the division in Anthony Hernandez. This should be a really fun grappling scrap, and if Hernandez wins, then we have a fourth nightmare contender in the top 10. Behind him, you have Michel Pereira and Roman Kopylov, who are both fan-friendly strikers that generally put on exciting fights. Honestly, they should probably just make that fight. Make them fight each other. I'd pay to watch that. And then we have the almighty Bo Nickel at number 15. Yeah, the UFC has not been doing this guy any favors with the way they're cramming him down people's throats by sticking him on pay-per-view main cards against scrubs. I get he's very new to the sport and they don't want to make the mistake by rushing him into hard fights, but please keep those in the prelims, man, until he's good enough to fight bigger names. I don't dislike the guy. I 100% believe that the reason fans have soured on him over the years is the UFC's fault. So in saying that, I want to see him act as kind of the gatekeeper to the rankings for a couple more fights. Have him fight Shara Bullet or something, maybe Andre Muniz. And on the topic of Shara Bullet, we have a good few prospects eyeballing the rankings. There's the Pirate himself, who did kind of get stumped by MVP, but I don't think that'll halt his career too much. MVP made Ian Gary look like bird shit on the feet after all. Shara is a really flashy striker and it's clear he's already a big name. Besides him, you got people like Joe Pyfer, RDR, Gregory Rodriguez, Ikram Aliskarov, Abus Magomedov, Cesar Almeida, and believe it or not, Jack Hermanson, who I didn't even notice until now was quietly removed from the rankings because of inactivity, I guess. Hermanson is seriously underrated. And even the contenders I didn't talk about like Strickland, Izzy, Whittaker, Costa, these guys are all big names. And honestly, them coming off of losses puts them in an interesting situation as pretty much all of them are going to have to fight up-and-comers to reclaim their status, which means a slew of fresh matchups for the fans. Fuck yeah. It's just crazy how quickly this division went from being one of the lesser exciting ones to, in a few short years, being one of the best. It hasn't been this exciting in a while. And I'm kind of interested to see which division will undergo a major overhaul in the coming years. Featherweight's getting pretty interesting again. Maybe flyweight will surprise us and become the best out of nowhere. Who knows? Anyways, middleweight is awesome, and I'll take it.